Okay, so you're here because you want to access higher planes. You want to go deeper in meditation. You want to experience more of what there is available because there's much more than this physical plane. And I won't bore you if you're new to this channel with all of my experiences, but I've made videos about my experiences of reaching higher planes in meditation. It's something that I've been doing for, meditation-wise, since I was about 6 years old. So I'm very familiar with how to meditate and all various different techniques. And I've reached higher planes in my meditation. So in this video, I wanted to show you how you can do it. Because I think many people overcomplicate this process. And I think there's a need for a video on how to actually access higher planes. So I'm going to take you through a bit of a process, how I would recommend accessing higher planes. So the first point that I want to make, and I want to make this video really raw, really concise, really easy for you to follow, because I'm kind of over with high production videos. Not that I ever did that high production. But the first thing that I want to talk about is, I'm going to put here actually, accessing higher planes. And let's loop that like that, and I'm going to do a bit of a mind map, I think they call it, of how to do this. So the first thing that I'm going to mention is finding a technique. So technique. So many people will follow guided meditations, they will listen to some kind of audio version of a meditation. That will only take you so far. You really need to get very good at keeping the mind still. And the biggest thing that affects accessing higher planes is a single pointed focus. So single pointed focus. Now, what's the first single pointed focus that you think of when I mention that? For most people, it's going to be following the breath, right? And before you leave this video, I'm going to explain in more detail about this, but following the breath is actually, believe it or not, a perfectly good way of accessing higher planes. Most people just don't dive into that technique for long enough, or with enough discipline, or with enough intensity as well. They add lots of other things to their practice which kind of clutter it. So the first thing is finding a technique. That technique wants to be a single pointed focused meditation. So look at your process now. Look at the process that you go through when you meditate at the moment. Are you going through some long-winded process of imagining light coming in here, moving energy around the body, connecting with your higher self, saying prayers for people, part of for your family members or your friends, trying to open one chakra or another? Independently, those things are okay, but we're trying to get to the point where the mind becomes very simple. So if you're cluttering the meditation with various different things and you're kind of going through a really long-winded process, or you're following some kind of guided meditation which is talking you through some kind of visualization, it's not that there's anything wrong with those things, but if this is your goal, you need to get good and mastery. You need to gain mastery over a single pointed focused meditation. So what are single pointed focused meditation? You can do candle gazing. This is otherwise known as Trataka. And Trataka basically means to gaze. Now, I've taught many yoga teachers over the years how to meditate, and loads of them, as soon as I say about candle gazing meditation, they will go, "Oh yeah, I know that one." Do any of them do it regularly? Very few. I don't think I've come across a single yoga teacher that consistently practices candle gazing or Trataka meditation. Most of the time, and this is no, I'm not sort of low blowing them or anything, because without guidance I wouldn't know about this, but most people kind of play around with different techniques. They'll have a go at this, they'll have a go at following the breath, they'll try a guided meditation, and that leads me on to, in fact I'll keep using that pen, dig a deep well. Dig a deep well. What I mean by this is try not to, as even the more experienced you become, the more knowledge you acquire, the more techniques you're going to know, try not to just flick between one technique and another. What many people will do is, and I totally understand this is not again, I'm not hitting out at people that do this. I'm just saying if this is your outcome, if this is the outcome that you desire, then you need to stick with digging a deep well. And that is that many people will learn lots of different techniques and they will change. So one day they'll try one technique, the next day they'll try another technique, the next day they'll try another, or from one week to the next. You need to dig a deep well. Rather than digging lots of shallow wells, trying one technique one day, going on the breath one day, going on a candle the next day, guided meditation the next day, a chakra meditation the next day, that's digging shallow wells. You're just trying one, you're only getting a certain level of depth and you're moving on to the next thing. You need to gain mastery over digging a deep well. You need to just find one technique, whether it's candle gazing, whether it's following the breath, whether it's a mantra, and dig a very, very deep well. And what I mean by that is really just stick with that single technique without adding anything, without doing anything different for months on end. And I'm not saying that to get to this level, it's necessarily going to take months. For many people it might, for many people it might take years. It might be something that happens to you after a couple of weeks, who knows? But if you want to get to the point where you're accessing higher planes, you need to get mastery over a single pointed focus and you need to be consistent with it, which means you dig a nice deep well. The next thing that I want to bring up is related to your daily life. So let's put here daily life. We have to look at what we are filling our day with. So if you want to access higher planes, we already know that we need to find a meditation technique. It needs to be ideally a single pointed focus and you need to be doing it consistently, regularly to dig a deep well with it. But outside of the meditation practice, I'm going to recommend and I would advise, and this is something that I try to do as well, is to align your life in daily life. So look at your habits in daily life. Look at the kind of thoughts you're engaging. Look at the kind of habits that you're taking on daily. Like, what are you filling your body with? Are you filling your body with junk food? Are you watching porn all the time? Are you watching, violent videos? Are you filling your mind with all the negativity in the news? All of those things impact the level of depth that you're going to be able to attain, the kind of clarity of mind that you're going into the meditation with. You're going to be starting on the back foot if you've not aligned what you do in your daily life. This is absolutely key. This is probably, to some degree, it's not more important than the meditation, because obviously the meditation is ultimately the thing that, that's the tool, that's the key that allows you to access higher planes. But it is incredibly important. This needs to be aligned for these other things to kind of make a difference, to actually help you and to actually allow you to access the higher planes. The next point that I want to make up is, I'm just about right, let go of expectation. God, my writing's terrible. Let go of expectation. Now, what this doesn't mean to not have a desire. This doesn't mean to not aspire to want to have to want to experience higher planes. You have to aspire for that. You do have to have a part of you that wants to go further, that wants to experience more. That is often kind of considered a negative thing in some I guess you could call it lineages within meditation. Some people will say it's not a good thing to want within your meditation practice because that brings you into mind. That's an egoic trait. But that's not my way, and that's not the way that I was taught. And it's not I've done that and had many profound experiences of higher planes with this desire. The desire is the thing that propels you there. But what the desire cannot have is an expectation, or it can, but it will lead to suffering. So if you go into your meditations and you expect an outcome, you will inevitably suffer, because when that outcome doesn't arise, when you don't achieve the thing that you want to achieve, you will feel some kind of suffering, mild or more extreme. You will suffer somewhat. So you have to let go of the expectation, but it is good to have the inner desire to want to do it. If you combine all of these things, you practice regularly, you learn a technique, you dig a very deep well, you make sure that the technique that you learn is a single pointed focus, you don't clutter your meditation with too much stuff, you align your life in daily life, so what you're eating, what you're fueling your body with, and when I say that, I mean everything that you consume, both through, not just through what you're eating, but what you're watching, what you're listening to, all of that kind of stuff. And then you let go of expectation. The outcome of doing that consistently is that eventually you'll reach the point where you're able to access higher planes. Another tip when you're actually doing the meditation is, my arm's going dead now, keeping the body very still. And I know this is a kind of weird point because I've been touching on quite broad points here, but keeping still. This actually makes a really big difference, because part of what we want to do is start to forget body consciousness. So start to let go of this sense of physicality. If you're kind of fidgeting all the time and moving around, you're going to keep bringing yourself back into the body, back into this like body consciousness, I call it. Keeping your body really, really still and gaining this really profound kind of intense concentration, which you get with a single pointed focus, that allows you to sort of let go of body consciousness and start to experience more and more, or higher and higher, I should say, levels of consciousness. I like to call it the super conscious mind. So we kind of go from conscious mind to super conscious mind. These things here are kind of ingredients to get you to the point where you start to access higher planes. Now there are other things that I could add, and I can kind of go into all of the nuances, but broadly speaking, these are the things that are going to get you there. If you need help with this stuff, and I didn't really create this video as a sales pitch, but I've just thought of it now I've got to this stage, I do have a school community. I'll put a link in the description. I have lots of courses on meditation in there, guided meditations as well, different single pointed meditations. I'm starting a 3-month program soon, depending on when you're watching this video. There's an amazing community of people, like-minded people, who are also on this journey of getting deeper in meditation, understanding themselves, learning about spiritual concepts and all of that kind of stuff. It's an amazing community. Links down in the description. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I wanted to keep this one short and sweet, so I'm going to leave it with you. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.